Very different cards.
Yes.
Who thought?
Absolutely.
But it looks like we're off to the races. Players are picking up their opening hands. On the right of your screen, you're going to see Robin Hartshorn with his Maverick deck. On the left, you'll have Sean Ryan with his Reanimator deck. Sean actually got second in the last Star City Games Seattle last year. I was there commentating. He ended up losing out to Ben Swartz, who was playing Hive Mind, but then he was playing No Bant. But this time he's decided to put away the fair cards and pick up the unfair ones.
Absolutely. I mean, if there's any format to do that, it's Legacy.
Right.
We've seen a lot of times, like Reanimator last year was all Jin Gataxias. There was no Gristlebrand.
Right.
And now with the addition of Gristlebrand kind of replacing Jin Gataxias, I still like the idea of both. Maybe just Jin Gataxias as a one-of, maybe a 3-1 split kind of thing. Maybe 4 Gristlebrands and a Jin Gataxias. It feels to me like, being able to stick a Jin Gataxias, if they have a super small window to answer it, and then they're pretty locked out of the game. So,
yep.
Not present in Sean's deck though.
Yeah, Robin leads on Savannah, but has no play back that. Yeah. So besides 4 Gristlebrands, Sean also has an Iona, an Elshnorn, and a Tidespout Tyrant.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, very interesting choice there.
So a slow early couple turns. Sean plays Blue to Delta. Robin plays a second land, and out comes Talia.
Now that's actually could present something of a problem for the Reanimator deck. There's not a lot of lands. How many is it over there? 17?
5, 9, 12, 18 lands.
18, yeah. Usually that's about right for a Reanimator deck. I think mine runs 17, but it's light on lands. It runs on just a few lands, but Thalia is gonna really make all of those reanimation spells, all those careful studies and brainstorms and ponders just cost 1 more unless he can find an answer. And it looks like there's not a lot of removal either in the Reanimator decks. So
right. Although Sean has a window right here. He casts Entomb in response to the Thalia. Is going to go get Gristlebrand presumably into his graveyard, maybe Iona. And then if he untaps and just has Reanimate, he can just cast it.
Right,
and get it into play.
Yeah, as long as he has a land.
Right,
as
long as he has a land. That's always tricky. Once again, with only 18 lands. Yeah, and there's Gristlebrand heading into the graveyard. The Absent Restored Nemesis, seeing some play. That's one powerful card, and it's kind of interesting to see a card from Absent Restored making such a huge impact in Legacy. It's, a lot of times a new set will come out, and maybe you'll see a card here or there, but Gristlebrand is certainly one of the hot topics of the Legacy community.
Yeah, I think it's interesting just over the past year or two how much the sets have been having an impact. Newer sets have been having an impact on Legacy. But here, Sean actually finds a Force of Will for Thalia, or had a Force of Will.
No, but Robin played Cavern of Souls and tapped it for the Thalia, so he just wasted a Force of Will.
That's a good question. He named.
You might have just forgot he entombed it in response, and he did a bunch of shuffling. Yeah, so he just threw away a Force Will and a Ponder.
Wow, I didn't even realize that he had he had played the Thalia that way.
Yeah. Robin dropped Cavern of Souls, named Human, and then Thalia came out. So, wow. Yeah,
so that's interesting. I guess it's it's legal to try to counter them.
Yeah,
you can attempt. It just doesn't actually work.
Right. I mean, with Force of Will, it's particularly brutal because you had to pitch a Ponder too to do it. So seeing if Sean can overcome that'd be pretty impressive. Like I just threw away Force of Will for no reason. Force of Will and a Ponder and a life. Just Not relevant. Don't need. All right. So now Robin's going to tap those 2 and play a Scavenging Ooze. Decidedly not a human, but Sean will opt to not counter it. And Thalia comes in crashing, dropping Sean's life total to 16.
Yeah, so just as I was saying, like new cards. There's Scavenging Ooze came out last summer in the Commander decks. There's Thalia just came out a few months ago, and then Gristlebrand is in the graveyard as the creature in Legacy right now. These are all new cards.
And Gristlebrand gets nommed up by that Scavenging Ooze.
Yeah, and that is something that I don't know that Sean can get back into this game very easily. Where Thalia resolved, Scavenging Ooze resolved. There's just so much working against him right now.
Yeah, and I see an Animate Dead in Sean's hand, but yeah, that Force Will was so brutal because he could have forced that Scavenging Ooze and kept the Gristlebrand in his graveyard, but because he threw it away on the Thalia, he doesn't have that option. And this turn, if he had drawn a land, he could have reanimated that Gristlebrand. So.
Yeah, I think I believe he has Force, but I don't think he has Blue card. Well, now he may, but I don't think he had Blue card when Scavenging Ooze was cast. I think he had Force though.
Right. But if he had not forced the Thalia,
yeah, he would have. You're right.
Sean opts for a main phase Brainstorm here, putting 2 cards back on top and just passing the turn, no land drop, which means probably no lands for a couple turns, because that's how Brainstorm unfortunately works. It certainly is always the dagger when you have to put 2 non-lands on top and your mana screwed. And facing down Athalia, that's not good news.
I guess there's a possibility that Sean has a Ponder that's going to allow him to shuffle, but I don't see it. I see Animate Dead, Elish Norn, maybe another Entomb, I think. Animate Dead, Elish Norn, Entomb. Can't quite see what else. It's kind of dark. But.
And Entomb is not going to get the job done against Scavenging Ooze.
No, he's going to have to. Find like a window to cast both Entomb and a reanimation spell when Robin doesn't have access to green mana.
Yeah, Robin drawing one of his 2 Scavenging Oozes was completely brutal there. And there's a Stoneforge Mystic coming down from Robin. Looks like his targets are Jite, Fire, and Fire and Ice. I imagine he's going to go get Fire and Ice here. Oh no, he gets Jite. Okay.
Either one's pretty brutal.
Oh yeah, either one is certainly very good. I guess he can cast the Jite this turn using his 2 mana and then equip it next turn. I just like the -1/-1 off the Jite isn't that relevant, and the +1/+1 and the 2 left is not that relevant, and the +2/+2 is mitigated by the fact that Sword of Fire and Ice can just be dealing more damage. But he goes for the Jite here. Maybe he already has Sword in his hand. Thoughtseize is in Sean Ryan's hand, so he can do that. But if he does that, he's dead.
That's his turn, and he's at 9, and then, I mean, it's looking bad for him right now.
Yeah, I do not see Sean coming back. Especially, we know the top 2 cards of his deck are not lands, and there's Scavenging Ooze in play. Yeah, Sean is a longtime Legacy player from the area and has played a ton of Legacy, and he just might not be as familiar with the brand new card, Cavern of Souls, and hasn't played against it. Yeah, and there he is, packs in the cards, and so ended up forcing away that Ponder to try and counter Athalia that he couldn't. That was a game breaker.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal, and I would like to know what Sean thinks of that. Is he thinking, oh man, I made a mistake, or oh, I totally didn't realize it had aimed human, or where was the miscommunication? Was it Sean's error? Was there just did he just completely forget? There was a lot of shuffling, like you said.
Right. Well, he has Entomb in response. He might have forgotten. So let's go to sideboards here. Yeah. Let's start by looking at Sean. He's down a game. He's going to be looking to turn that around. He's got Pithy Needle. Probably not going to come in. I don't think that does enough.
Works well against Knight of the Reliquary. He knows he's playing against Maverick.
Right. And
Knight
I guess Scavenging Ooze too.
And actually that's more likely. But maybe it doesn't do enough. I'm with you there.
I could see bringing a couple. He's got 3. I don't know if you're going to want all 3 though.
Okay, I'm with you there.
Coffin Purge, probably not.
No.
Wipe Away, probably not. I mean, it could do something that Pithy Needle does, where you get to pick up their Scavenging Ooze and then try and go off. But for 3 mana, it's a little slow. It's
not that great, yeah.
Especially if you have to fight against Thalia, that's 4 mana. City of Traders, now that's really interesting. It allows Sean to board in some lands so he can just go off quicker some games, because he's going to have these 4 show and tells if he wants them.
And I think those come in side by side in a way. The City of Traders giving him just that little bit of extra mana and acceleration at the same time. Like we said, he only runs 18 lands, and show and tell being a little bit more expensive than most of the reanimation spells he was trying to cast game 1.
Do we think Sean's going to go for the show and tell plan after sideboarding?
I think that's kind of a natural inclination for reanimator decks, and I think against Maverick, it's not. What is Maverick going to drop into play that's going to be as big or as threatening as something that you're going to show and tell into play? You don't play show and tell and put a Animate Dead into play, really, do you? You know what I mean?
Right. So yeah, I mean, I think show and tell is reasonable, especially because if we think that Robin's going to be fighting on the graveyard access, Scavenging Oozes and stuff like that, you just show in a Gristlebrand, and that's that.
And even if they do go ahead and show in a Knight that could be fairly huge, or a Scavenging Ooze, the damage is kind of done. Scavenging Ooze doesn't do much to a Gristlebrand that's already in play.
Right.
Removing it from the graveyard, sure.
The Knight kind of does. You can search up Caracas,
right,
bounce it, but Sean can still draw 7 cards.
Right, exactly. You can answer the Caracas or the Knight before the Knight is actually online.
And then the other 2 cards on Sean's sideboard, Gilded Drake, not going to come in, I don't think. I mean, you could trade it for another Reliquary, I guess.
I don't even know that that's worth it.
But yeah, it seems like you just want to be a streamlined combo, and that's probably not going to do the trick. Blazing Archon, I think, will probably come in.
Yeah, keeping Robin from being able to even attack is huge, because that's how Robin needs to win. He's not winning through another means.
Right, and now Robin does have some swords, the plowshares, but still, if you just play Blazing Archon and have Force of Will up, it could be a rough road for him. Let's look at Robin's sideboard now. He has an Enlightened Tutor package. So he's got 2 Enlightened Tutors. His targets are Crucible of Worlds, Wheel of Sun and Moon, Grafdigger's Cage, Ensnaring Bridge, Phyrexian Revoker, and Hartshorn Canonist. So I imagine he's going to bring in the Tutors and probably Wheel of Sun and Moon and Grafdigger's Cage.
Yeah, Wheel of Sun and Moon's interesting. It just keeps things from hitting the graveyard. Basically, if they would go to the graveyard, they go to the bottom of the player's library instead. So all these, entomb, it kind of you just make their entombs into dead cards.
Right. Entomb becomes shuffle your library, put a card on the bottom.
Yeah.
Phyrexian Revoker could be okay just as a card you could bring in. So you just put it down and name Gristlebrand. You just buy yourself some time potentially.
Right.
After that, I guess he's got a Bajuka Bog to search up with the Knight. That's huge.
Grafdigger's Cage.
Yeah, the Cage will come in for the Tutor. Other than that, I don't really see a lot. He's got 2 Crop Rotations. Maybe those come in so you can search up
just
Caracas.
To get the Caracas, yeah.
Yeah, I could totally see that happening.
Ensnaring Bridge seems like a reasonable idea because of how large all those creatures are that Sean is playing.
We also got handed the standings and the metagame breakdown, and it looks like the top 8 the potential top 8 is a lot of interesting decks. Allurin probably just drew into top 8, which is pretty exciting. Belcher probably just drew into top 8. Blue-White Miracles probably drew into top 8.
I'm kind of surprised we're not doing that match. Probably because he drew.
Right.
That's awesome.
I mean, presumably he drew. He might not have, I guess. I haven't done the math on
this.
But
we're just looking at the top.
Stoneblade with red is it top 8 contention. So going straight down from the top, it's first is Rug Delver, second is Merfolk, third is Allurin, fourth is Reanimator, fifth is Belcher, sixth is Blue-White Miracles, seventh Sneak and Show, eighth Maverick, ninth Maverick, 10th Stoneblade, 11th Reanimator, 12th Merfolk, 13th Maverick, 14th Blue-Red Delver.
So what is that, 3 Maverick, 2 or 3 Merfolk, and then a bunch of, like a couple of Reanimators?
Looks like 3 Mavericks.
3 Mavericks, 2 Merfolks, I think. Which is interesting that that Merfolk is showing up again.
Yeah, Merfolk is always somewhat popular in Seattle.
Yeah.
In the Legacy metagame, so I'm not too surprised to see it being played, but at the top tables is kind of an interesting.
Right.
Might have just been a good metagame call for today with all the decks that are out there. If people are trying to sneak and show in, maybe Merfolk is good against that. All right, so it looks like we're going to be kicking off here. And Verdant Catacomb searches up an Underground Sea for Sean, trying to get off to the races and get to a better start than last game. All right, and there's Careful Study.
And I see Blazing Archon already in Sean's hand, and he draws what? Ponder Show and Tell?
Yeah, Show and Tell. I wanted to call it Sneak and Show.
Sneak and Snow and Tell.
All right. So
Snow and Tell. That sounds like the next Wizard's Holiday card, right?
Snow and Tell. I snowed and lived to tell about it. So he's looking at what to discard. I see a Gristlebrand in his hand, another Careful Study, a Reanimate. So he's got an interesting choice. He can either hold on to his fatties and try and show and tell them into play, or he can discard them here and go for the turn 2 Reanimate. If Robin doesn't have anything, he's in good shape. If Robin does have something, that could be a problem. So a hard decision for Sean Ryan. What does he want to do? Or he can discard one fatty and try and hedge his bets.
Right. I do see there's a Gristlebrand, there's a Blazing Archon.
Yeah,
and
he's got Reanimate, Careful Study.
Does he play Iona? I can't remember if I saw it.
He plays Iona.
I kind of see a white card in there. Okay, so he goes with Tidespout Tyrant and Gristlebrand going to the graveyard, and Robin wants to read Tidespout Tyrant.
He had the whole collection of fatties there.
He did. I guess that was why the turn 1 Careful Study was, immediately cast.
Right.
Or, the Careful Study was cast right away turn 1. You want to try to get some of those guys out of your hand, turn them into some different cards. And, it is kind of cool. Like, I believe, still, he has Blazing Archon in hand. We know that. And Show and Tell. So if Robin wants to fight his graveyard, Sean's got a backup. If Robin can't fight the graveyard, maybe Sean decides he wants to, he's going to have trouble for the moment, but maybe Sean decides he wants to go ahead and reanimate something.
All right, so Robin wastelands away the Underground Sea. Now, Sean needs a land to reanimate, but there's no land forthcoming. He even has a Brainstorm in his grip, but he can't cast it, no lands. So now is Robin's kind of opening. If Sean draws a Black Source, he can reanimate and take control of the game, but he has to do that before Robin gets a guy online, and we're going to see what's going to happen here. Looks like Robin cracks a land getting a Savannah. See what he's got access to. Now, the fact that Robin didn't play like a Grafdigger's Cage or something kind of tells me that, and it opted a Wasteland on turn 1 instead, kind of tells me that he doesn't have any of his hate in his hand, because otherwise I think he would have went for that.
Yeah, I agree. He does have Caracas.
Oh, he does have Caracas. That is huge.
Yeah.
So if Sean reanimates Griselbrand, he could draw 7 cards, but it might still get bounced. There's Noble Hierarch. Sean is just going to be looking for a Black Source. Is it a Black Source?
It is not.
All right, it's something that is not a Black Source.
Now he gets to discard here, I think, or is that 7?
Looks like
It looks like 7.
cards.
Okay.
All right, now Robin's going to, oh, he drew Grafdigger's Cage. Brutal.
This is, yeah.
Could this be the end of Reanimator? We'll see. All right, so Robin thinks about playing that Caracas, but decides to keep it in his hand. You know, doesn't need to show it off before he needs to.
Absolutely, yeah. There's no reason. I mean, Caracas is, Griselbrand. If it hits the table, it's going to draw 7 cards anyway.
All right, there's a Thalia from Robin, which is going to cause nightmares for Sean. Ryan.
Yeah, we saw what it did game 1, and now Sean has absolutely no lands. He doesn't have an answer to Thalia.
All right, so he draws the lands.
Yeah, a turn too late.
Yep, a turn too late. And Robin hasn't played his Grafdigger's Cage yet. I guess waiting, figuring, well, Sean can't do anything when I've got Thalia in play anyway.
Yeah,
so
we might see the cage here.
Yep, might just cage
There's
it up.
Caracas.
All
so
right.
he says, I dare you to go after Griselbrand.
The temple is out of the bag. All right.
And,
Scavenging
Ooze too. Oh my gosh.
What a draw. So he's got not only Grafdigger's Cage, but Thalia and Scavenging Ooze to back it up.
And Caracas in case something actually does hit the table.
Right.
At this point, Sean can basically, forget about Griselbrand.
Right. So he's got Show and Tell in his hand, but he's still 3 more lands away from casting that. And considering he's trying to draw lands off the top, that's going to be difficult. If he draws 1, I guess he could Brainstorm and try and find those lands, but it's going to be a rough road for Sean Ryan here.
Not a
Draws
land.
a Thoughtseize, that's not going to do it. And I think the clock now has outpaced his chance of victory. Scavenging Ooze is sitting as a 4/4. He's got a Thalia, which is a 2/1. So that he can attack in for 6, drop Sean to 10. Yeah, that's not going to do it. I think Sean is dead.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Like he just that small stumble, and then Thalia really takes advantage of that. Really punishes players for stumbling on their mana, and especially decks like this that can't do anything unless they cast non-creature spells.
Right. Yeah, Legacy has such a high density of non-creature spells. It's so populated by them that a card like Thalia just pinpoints attack those decks. And it's okay in Standard. It's seen maybe some Standard play, but in Legacy and Modern is where it really, really shines. I think even Vintage. I think I might have seen a Thalia hanging out in there too. So, all right. So Robin taps 3 and brings out Knight of Reliquary.
Yeah, keeping the pressure on. Next turn, that's it. Like,
yeah.
If Robin gets another attack step, that's it.
Yeah, I just can't see Sean going back.
Sean finds an island, all right, so he's going to try to hold on.
That's going to be much too late, I think.
Yeah,
and that's it. Sean extends the hand. Looks like Maverick going to have at least 1 Maverick deck in our top 8, and judging by the standings, probably maybe even 2 Maverick decks in the top 8.
Yeah, there were 3 in what we mentioned, right? So, there's Ian Kendall playing. Oh, that's Merfolk. Sorry, it's Samuel Moniz playing Maverick. Joshua Sirag's on Merfolk. I keep seeing Merfolk and thinking it says Maverick at first. So we have Dan Baker and Robin Hartshorn both on Maverick. So very Maverick's a popular deck. I'm not surprised at all to see it at the top tables in some number.
Yeah, Maverick is popular and it keeps doing well. It's funny, a lot of people make fun of it because it's like green-white beatdown and Legacy. Like you could be killing your opponent on turn 2. But yet it keeps putting up good results because of all that disruption. We saw that game, how it was able to beat a turn 2 combo deck, right? You have Thalia, which slows them down. You have some disruption like Scavenging Ooze. You have to draw it at the right time. Game 1 can be rough sometimes, but I mean, he had all the right pieces.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like he already is built to deal with graveyard somewhat. I mean, a lot of Maverick decks main deck 1 Bajuka Bog, which is already, just there's so many decks that's even good against the mirror, decks with Tarmogoyf or Reanimator decks, like being able to knight up a Bajuka Bog is pretty awesome. Like just there, that's main deck sometimes in a lot of cases. So I think Maverick just has a great matchup against graveyard-based strategies. And then when the graveyard deck tries to compensate by shifting to show and tell, Thalia's there to say, well, you can show and tell on turn 4.
Right.
If you hit 4 land drops.
On turn 4, maybe.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Like at best, you can show and tell on turn 4. Or it just forces them to have something like Force of Will.
That's a bit of a stretch. So, I mean, we can look down the standings here. I am trying to figure out exactly how this all breaks down. I think what happens is, so there's a Rug Delver in for sure. He's got 21 points.
Okay. Yeah, so he's in.
And I think the first couple 18-pointers can probably draw. So I think we'll probably see Joshua Sarad playing Merfolk. Josh always plays Merfolk. So he bringing his pet deck here, or pet as in, Merfolk. It's not exactly a pet deck, but it's a popular deck that hasn't seen a lot of play recently. He's bringing it here. Ends up in top 8 probably. Martin Golden Pierce, an excellent player. Played on the Pro Tour multiple times. Playing Alurin, very exciting. Probably in top 8. Might get to see some Alurin on camera, which I'm sure will be exciting.
We actually did see it earlier. I've watched it now twice. I watched him just out there in the Swiss in the early rounds. I think round 1 or 2. And then we got to see it in round 3, the first match we covered. And Marshall was talking about how good of a player Martin is, and saying about how he's like a PTQ end boss kind of around here. And I'm thinking, well, if he's that good, and this deck, nobody's fighting Alurin. Nobody's prepared for Alurin, and I can totally see him taking this down, especially now knowing that he's in contention for top 8, or probably just on 18 points with the pretty good tiebreakers, it looks like.
Yeah, he's second 18-pointer. I feel like he's probably in good shape. Alurin, I don't know if Martin's played it very much, the Alurin deck, but one of his big abilities is to pick up a deck and just play it. There was one point where he top 8'd 3 consecutive PTQs, I think, with 3 different decks.
Wow.
Which is really impressive.
Yeah.
The man can play some Magic. Of course, he's also not against finding his own deck. He played a Bant deck and extended for a while and just kept winning with it. But so he can just pick up a deck and start playing it. And with something as complicated as Alurin, that is a huge boon to have.
Yeah. Now, I was only vaguely familiar with Alurin. Like, I got the concept, and there was the one piece that I couldn't remember, the Parasitic Strix. I'm like, how does it win? It's something like Tendrils, and I can't remember what it is. And it's the Parasitic Strix. But so I'm like, when I saw it being played, I'm like, oh, let me watch this so I could remember what that last piece is. And I'm watching, and he goes off, and I'm like standing there, and I look at Twitter, and I look up, and they had already scooped. I'm like, I missed it.
I always love it when cards like Parasitic Strix are getting played in Legacy. When there's like some combo deck, and
we have another match,
totally random win condition.
Yeah, I actually overheard someone lamenting a loss to Alurin a little while ago, so I'm assuming it was to Martin, because I don't think there's more than one Alurin in the room right now, and 186 players that were here today.
Right. Well, especially if you're playing with Imperial Recruiter, those are really hard to get too.
That's why it's so such a uncommon deck. But I'll say it in a minute.
So we're heading to another match. It's game 3. This is tight. These guys playing for top 8. Ian Kendall on your right, Jesse Hampton on the left. Ian's playing Merfolk, Jesse playing Reanimator. Jesse, a seasoned veteran of the game. He's top 8 at a Pro Tour last year. A lot of success at Magic, several Grand Prix top 16s.